Hello, my name is Ben Fry. I am a student in William Wood's EDU 506 class, and this is a self audit of my school district's athletics and activities programs in regards to Title IX compliance. Um, After reading through the different ways to identify different Title IX compliance issues or violations, there's a three-prong approach to studying and discovering if you do have issues and I've decided that I'm going to talk about the third prong, which is full and effective accommodation of women's athletics interests and abilities. Um, this method is used for a school to comply with the participation opportunities standard, is to fully and effectively accommodate the athletics interests and abilities of its female students. Um, in effect, this requires offering every team for women for which there is one, a demonstrated interest in the sport by the school's female enrollment, two, sufficient ability among those interested to field a viable team, and three, an adequate number of competitors in the school's geographic area for competition. Um, on top of that, the key to compliance with the third prong um, is the two words full and effective. The burden is on the school and the athletic administrators to determine whether there is any unmet athletics interests on the part of female enrollment. This involves developing some assessment tools to measure women's athletic interests. One possibility is used um, that is used is a written survey completed by the school's female students and evaluated by the school's athletic administrators to determine any areas of unmet athletic interest. A second possibility is to review non interscholastic sports programs, including intramurals, club sports, physical education courses, or certain activity areas under the physical education course, community sports programs, and other recreational sports programs. And the district would assess these to see if there's any unmet or growing areas of sport interest for women. The third possibility is to review what other schools, leagues, conferences, districts, state associations in your geographic area have for competition. Um, Doing those helps you discover the trends in athletic interests for the female students in the state and also in your area. So again, the main keywords here are full and effective. Um, Basically, after doing research on this prong, I've I've dove into New London High School as a whole. Um, our district um, has a student population of 300 or 236 students. Um, they are uh, that is grades 7 through 12, which is what we deem as athletic athletically capable of performing, since our school offers courses in the 7 through 12, or not courses, competitions in the 7 through 12 grade range. Um, that being said, um, not all of the students in our district participate in sports. And a key thing to take into consideration is that while your school may offer certain activities, they aren't always considered to be uh, Title IX compliant. They won't count towards your effort to create equal opportunities for women or female student athletes. The current policy states that cheerleading, um, dance, line, pom poms, and drill team are not considered to be athletic sports. A person can also not be considered an athlete who is an equipment manager student athletic trainer, scorekeeper, record keeper, that kind of thing, manager. They are not supposed to be counted in your overall number of student athletes that any team is hosting. So um, that being said, there's a lot of different stipulations and that kind of dictate who you can count as student athletes and who you can't. Now, as I said, uh, New London High School, we're a very small high school in southeast Iowa. We have 236 students, 7 through 12, and of that 236, 104 of them are female, which makes up 44% of that student body. Now, of that 44%, um, we have we have a history of very successful athletic programs. So having students that just aren't involved in anything is kind of a rarity. We do have students that won't participate in any uh, extracurricular activity that is deemed an athletic activity under the Title IX jurisdiction, band, choir, that kind of stuff. But for the most part, most of our kids are involved in at least one athletic sport or more. So, um, of those 104 females, so of that 44%, roughly 76% of those female student athletes are involved in at least one sport. Now, with us being a very small high school, um, just about 90% of that 76% is involved in more than one sport. Um, we don't have the luxury where kids can kind of just specialize in one sport here because we are so small. Kids have to participate in as much as possible anything that they are interested in. We try and find a way to provide for them. So um, we have a really good we have a really good balance. We have a really good percentage of female student athletes who are involved in athletics. Now that being said, we offer what most people would consider all of the major sports. We offer football for men, volleyball for girls in the fall. In the winter, we offer boys and girls basketball, and we offer men's wrestling. In the spring, we offer boys and girls track and boys and girls golf. And then over the summer, Iowa is the only state that plays a summer season um, of baseball and softball. So all of our female athletes have just as many opportunities as the male athletes in every season. There's at least two sports, and one of which is a male sport, and one of them is a female sport. The only one that has an additional male sport is winter, when we have wrestling. And the state of Iowa is currently investigating the opportunities that it might present some students or some schools to have a female specific wrestling program. And so they're working on kind of developing weight classes and that kind of thing for a female division. Um, with the size of our school, I'm not sure that we would ever really have that big of an influx of females that want to wrestle. We haven't had one on our wrestling team, to my knowledge, for 15 plus years. We may never have had a female wrestler. Not to say that they wouldn't be welcome if they wanted to try. Um, the average participants in all of our sports are relatively close. This season, we've got 36 football players. The average we have for our 8-man football team is about 30. Volleyball is pretty consistent. It's usually 22 to 25 girls. Um, Same thing, boys track, girls track, it's roughly the same numbers. Baseball, usually a few more baseball players than softball players. The one big discrepancy we have in terms of just participation in a sport is basketball. We usually have 15 to 20 men's basketball players. Um, our girls' numbers were kind of steady, somewhere between 12 to 16. But over the recent years, we've had a major disinterest, I guess you could say, in basketball. So last season, um, after much deliberation between the school board, the school administrators, they decided to continue to field women's basketball, even though we only had 7 players, 6 of whom traveled to every game, one of whom traveled to about 80% of the games. So, um, the numbers there aren't great. We graduated one of those 7, and hopefully we can get a couple more to come up from the junior high. But even still, our junior high numbers aren't that great. Um, there's just for some reason a disinterest in women's basketball in our district right now, and we're trying to figure out why that is. So, on top of that, New London Community Schools is considered a low income school district. Um, Roughly 42 to 45% of our students are on some sort of free or reduced lunch program due to their income status. Um, as a low income district, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense for us to field um, some programs that are a little bit more costly if the interest level isn't um, really high enough. Not to say we don't have enough to field our own team, but the numbers have to be steady. If we were to start a team with the minimum amount to start it, if we don't get any more interest in that after that first year, then we've just spent all this money investing in a program that isn't going to be sustainable down the road. So, what we do for all of our student athletes that are interested in sports that we don't offer, we enter into sharing agreements with neighboring school districts. So we share cross country, um, which that one kind of fluctuates. Sometimes we have a huge amount of people that want to participate in cross country. Sometimes we don't. But we share every year, and therefore they still get to participate, even if we have 7 kids interested or whether we have 20 kids interested. We also share boys and girls soccer, and that's the same thing, same kind of guidelines there. And we share bowling, and bowling is kind of the one sport that's always we're never going to send that many kids, but you don't have to have a whole lot um, to have a team. So the school that we share with provides probably 3/4 of the team, and we supply 4, 5, 6 kids. So there's kind of it's kind of a cool thing. We try to make sure that any interest that an athlete has, we allow them or we can provide them the opportunity to participate in those sports. Um, so some ways that we have accommodated some of our athletic programs is simply by making sure that our basketball program stayed alive when it probably would have been wise for us just not to field a basketball program. Um, we're always adding additional training equipment for coaches. That's men's coaches and women's coaches for their sports specifically, so that they can develop their athletes, as well as we just had a weight room overhaul a couple years ago, and we have gotten a lot of nice new equipment up there, but it's a lot of equipment that is designed for heavy lifting, that kind of thing. So one thing that we are working on is trying to get more female specific or not so much heavy weightlifting equipment, um, so that our females feel more welcome to come and use the weight room facilities. Um, Cross country has become more of a sport that kids are interested in, especially females. So that is something that we opened into a sharing agreement and are sharing that program. Um, we don't have any seasons where a men's sport is offered and not a women's sport is offered. We always have a women's sport and a men's sport. Sometimes the sports are the same, sometimes they aren't. Um, as far as the other schools in our district, and this goes back to one of those prongs, um, the sufficient ability among those interested to field a viable team and the interest of the schools in the area or the activities in the area. So we have tons, and I mean tons, of youth programs, um, club teams. I think we've got 4 different club volleyball teams. We have a youth football program. We have um, youth basketball. I mean, we've got everything. I think we had 4 or 5 youth basketball programs. The problem is that they're still down in elementary school and we can't get them into the high school yet. Um, but our school has tons of youth programs that help us kind of feed our kids and get them interested at an early age. Um, and like I said, for those kids that maybe do a club soccer team or something like that when they're young, we share with another school district to make sure that we can provide them those opportunities when they get to high school. Um, but um, when you look at the schools in our conference, in our district, all that, there aren't many opportunities that aren't offered at our school. At these other school districts. There is one school in our conference that offers tennis, and so no other school in our conference offers tennis. Um, they're located a little bit closer to some bigger cities, and so while they may have tennis, they have more people in their area that are providing tennis teams to their students. With us being in the southeast corner of the state, if we were to provide a tennis program, I think we might have one potential opponent that would be within 20 minutes, but then it's going to be an hour plus away that our athletes would have to travel any time that they wanted to play tennis. Um, it's becoming um, one of those things. Tennis isn't something that we have the space for. We don't have facilities for it. Um, we just built a track for our track and field athletes. I mean, we're trying to catch up, but with us being a very small, low income district, it takes us a little bit to be able to provide some of these things. So whether it's a sharing agreement to make sure that our athletes are getting proper facilities for their sports, or whether it's us, you know, um, making work what we can. So after doing and diving into my investigations of our athletic programs, I didn't find any glaring violation issues or anything that we were close necessarily to a violation issue with Title IX, simply because we have so many different sharing agreements, we have so many different opportunities for our student athletes, and because we are so small and so many of our kids are involved in extracurriculars, that we our numbers are really solid. So while it is a concern that this may not always be the case with small junior high classes or small classes in the elementary coming up. Who knows how much longer we'll have these kind of numbers out for athletics? But currently, we aren't having any issues, and we are in the process of actually discussing whether it would be beneficial for us to um, starting our own cross country team because of the amount of interest we're gaining. And especially for all of our athletes, that would just give us another fall sport and kind of balance everything out just a little bit more. But it would cut down on costs for us because currently our costs really for those sports that we aren't hosting ourselves, those costs for us are largely transportation based, and that's kind of that isn't really ideal for us being a low income district, but we feel a need to provide opportunities for our student athletes regardless if we offer it or not. So we're going to transfer our athletes to transport our athletes to another school district if that means that they get to participate in something that they want to participate in, because in a small district it's easy to kind of just slip into a bad routine. It's easy to do that in any school district, but if you can find a way to get yourself involved in something, it keeps them on the straight and narrow and keeps them from getting into trouble. So I hope you found this informative. I hope a couple of these examples helped you understand a little bit more about Title IX and my self audit of New London Community Schools. Thank you.